Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Time for another episode of Just Take 3 with me, Andrew Musgrave.
Hi, Sam Mulliner. Hello.
Hello, you all right? You good?
You're opening a can of worms there, pal. Yeah, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm all the better for seeing your lovely face. We took a well-deserved break last week, but we are back with an absolute banging category picked by Sam. Ladies and gents, this is a real tough one to get through. I'm just going to introduce you to the concept in case you are new and you haven't heard one of these episodes before. If you haven't, head back and listen to the other 2 or 3 that we've done. It is a good laugh. It's something a little bit different. The concept is you've landed on a desert island. You've got no means of communication, but you do somehow have the ability to watch highlight reels of certain Newcastle United categories, players, goals, managers, whatever. What is today's category, Sam?
Topical one at the moment. I thought centre backs. It's going to be tough, but as Marc Guehi is in the news, what an exciting signing that would be if it gets done. Statement signing. So yeah, why not do centre backs? It's a real tough one, I think.
Yeah, we can see who Marc Guehi is going to have to go up against in the Legends Stakes when it comes to defenders. I'm assuming, Sam, your picks are all about ability and quality. You've not maybe picked the Titus Bramble or a Boom Song just for a bit of a
just
light relief.
No, absolutely not, because I don't find watching their mistakes like relief, I'm afraid. Still bugs me. But no, there's a couple of elements to it. Again, the usual kind of just standout ability but emotional as well. And you know, the premise is if you're stranded on a desert island, you want something good to watch, don't you? So there's a bit of that as well, rather than just purist centre back, you know, straightforward stuff.
When you sent me the category pick, and you are right, it is hard to a certain degree, but I have to say the 3 I've picked, with the first 3 that came into my head, there's maybe 2 others that could have crept in as kind of my last choice of the 3, but actually I think the 3 I've gone for, yeah, they're my first three picks, and we'll get into mine in a moment.
Well, who have you not gone for then? Like who are the honourable mentions? Because one of which, who I haven't picked, is kind of my, you know, that kind of GIF meme thing on social media where there's the Disney character with a load of swords to his throat with an unpopular opinion. Because mine involves a Newcastle centre back.
Go on then, you reveal that name.
Colaccini, I'm not a fan.
Not a fan. Okay, that's an interesting
one.
I think
he had a good couple of seasons in between, but started shockingly and ended just abhorrently. So I don't get missed. Of course, I still sing the Colaccini song when sung in the ground, but I'm not misty-eyed over Colaccini whatsoever.
I wouldn't say I'm misty-eyed, but I'm a little bit more in favour than perhaps you are. The couple I've missed out, Bob Moncur. I haven't gone for Bobby, Newcastle United legend, last captain to lift a trophy for the club. You know, he absolutely adores this club. I know he gets a little bit of criticism for the Mike Ashley years, but there's that old saying, better to be the fighting within than fighting without. There is the other way of saying it, but I'm not going to say it because we have a family podcast. But yeah, Bob Moncur, simply because when you speak to people and you watch some highlights, he was an absolute cracking player. I mean, he would not look out of place in a modern day Premier League side, the way, you know, could play with the ball. Really good defender, good captain, good leader, and you know he bleeds black and white. And the other one is Sven Botman, because I think he's the best centre back I've seen at Newcastle United since one of my picks. So that's why he was considered. But if we were doing this 2 or 3 years down the line and he was still here, then he'd probably get in ahead of that pick. But for now, he just misses out. But you know, big things to come from Botman when he returns from injury.
Yeah, so my first pick's Bob Moncur.
Oh, good. That's all right.
Yeah. And you
can I just interrupt, because last week, and he didn't do it in a nasty way, but you did say you didn't feel right picking someone that you'd not seen play.
No, I know, I get that. But at the end of the day, last captain to win a major trophy, and he played a huge part in the 2 legs against Dozer. So if you're stranded on a desert island, it'd be a bit of a pep to see us lift a trophy. And he was a huge part of that. And as you say, bleeds black and white. You kind of did my reasoning for me. I don't know why he's not in yours. I'm intrigued to see who's got in ahead of him. But yeah, Bob Moncur was kind of the kind of route one, kind of easiest pick for me.
Well, the reason you didn't really get into my picks is because you were in my head while I was doing my choices about picking people you hadn't seen before, and then you've gone back on that. So maybe I should revise my picks. But no, he deserves to be in at least one of our choices, and he was very narrowly missed out on mine. He's just such a nice guy as well. Like, he's got time for absolutely everybody. I see him most match days. He's just a lovely, lovely bloke who loves the club, and he goes out of his way to do anything for the fans. I did a documentary on Joe Harvey, and obviously he was kind of built in the image of Joe Harvey. He was Joe Harvey's captain. People often joked he was kind of Joe's other son because they were so alike in terms of the way they played as well, but their mannerisms, their leadership, and they kind of like looked like one another in many ways. And it was just out of lockdown, or in between the lockdowns, and I went round to his house, and we sat in the back garden, and we had probably about an hour and a half chat about Joe Harvey. And I'm holding
Was it a
up
work lunch or was it a party?
It was there was no birthday cake, and I was holding up my phone like this, just like as the recorder, and my shirt only came up to about halfway up my arm, and it wasn't until I got back in the house about 2 or 3 hours later I realised I had the most perfect of square sunburns, and it didn't half tickle Bob the next time he saw us because it was still there. It was kind of imprinted like a little tattoo on my arm. So there's my in between lockdown story with Bob Moncur. I live an exciting life. But yeah, wonderful person, wonderful character. And genuinely, when we talk about players of old who would fit into the modern game, he is one of them. Like, he is one of them. He's often described as a Scottish the Scottish, I've completely lost my train of thought there. England captain who won the World Cup.
Bobby Moore.
Bobby Moore. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Wow.
He's often described as the Scottish Bobby Moore, isn't he? So, you couldn't really get any bigger of a compliment than that.
Yeah. Whereas Bobby Moore, who you can't even remember the name of, widely regarded as England's greatest ever centre-back, greatest ever captain, and yeah, wow. But yeah, no, it was just an easy kind of tap-in really for me to choose Bob Moncur. Yeah, I've met him once myself, very briefly at the Dolphin the day before the cup final, because what a coup that was by yourself getting him on
that
the
had
talking.
nothing to do with me. Nothing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll quickly explain. The day before the League Cup final against Manchester United, we went down to the Dolphin, which is the HQ of the London Newcastle United Supporters Club. We had planned for weeks to hold a live event there. Me, Aaron Stokes, Lee Ryder, and Kieran Kelly. And I got this phone call the day before, and I thought, oh God, here they go. They're going to cancel on. They're going to say, no, we've got something else going on, or it's too busy. We can't do it. The police have shut it down. And he says, I've had a call from Bob Moncur. I said, all right. He says, he wants to come and join you, if that's all right. And I must have been silent for quite a long time because he's still there. I said, what do you mean if it's all right? Like, what do you mean? Do I want the last captain to lift a trophy for Newcastle United to join us on a live event the day before a cup final, which we could seriously win? Yes, definitely. And he was great value, wasn't he? He was absolutely cracking.
Yeah, just everything you'd hope him to be and more. Yeah, just an absolute class act. So he's my number one pick.
There we go, number one pick. Right. Well, my first pick is Philippe Albert, because he was just some player. And we talk again about players who could fit into the modern day era. Well, he would be worth a heck of a lot of money. Very good defender. Does everything you want as a defender, but he couldn't half attack. The way he could take the ball up the pitch, the way he could strike the ball. We all remember the goal against Manchester United, but he scored a good one against Manchester City. He scored 8 goals in total. He was just a fantastic player, exciting, kind of like the definition of that Kevin Keegan entertainer side. I know you've got Ginola, you've got Beardsley, you've got Shearer, but you've got this swashbuckling centre-back with flair and a bit of bite, and he was just so exciting to watch. Signed after the 94 World Cup in the USA. Keegan was a pundit, and I think he was already on the radar, but he kind of came well into his thinking after a brilliant performance. Cost 2.6 million. Stayed until 1999, which then he moved back to Belgium, played for a couple of seasons, and then retired. I think he's a pundit over there now, as well as running a fruit stall or a veg stall, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
but
yes. Did he have a stint at Fulham as well?
I don't know. Not according to my good old Wikipedia. He just moved over. You're looking at me like I might be wrong, or like Wikipedia's wrong. But anyway, Newcastle-wise, like when you talk about the building blocks, the foundations of that entertainers squad, he is one of the most important parts of it, isn't he?
Yeah, amazing. Again, obviously, he actually didn't make my three because it was one or the other, and I went for the other, which is in his mould, in essence. Yeah, that Man City goal was just the finish of an accomplished striker. Never mind a centre back. It's unbelievable technique, and yeah, the chip against Schmeichel is one of the most famous goals in Newcastle United history. There's no denying that. Yeah, superb. I would argue maybe not the strongest defensively, but that didn't matter at the time. I don't. It didn't matter. He was worth his weight in gold, and he was a fantastic player for us, and just, yeah, such good value. Like you say, 2.6 mil, which all right was not cheap at the time, was it? But still, well worth it. And yeah, great fun to watch. And yeah, one of the reasons really why I started supporting Newcastle. That was kind of my era growing up as a youngster, trying to choose a team just to follow. And yeah, you see centre half flying forward and scoring goals like that. It's a very attractive proposition. So yeah, he was very close to getting into my three, but I just went for the alternative because, again, if you are stuck on a desert island, you want something fun to watch, don't you? And he epitomises that, as does my second choice.
I think he was maybe a better defender than you give him credit for. And then when you partner him with Darren Peacock at the back, it was kind of a decent enough partnership, although we know that
Peacock was more your outright defensive.
Yeah.
You know, but what I will say is, considering like the tag of the entertainers and stuff, and I will, it's probably doing a disservice to my point and backing you up. If anything, we won a lot of games 1-0.
Yeah, they didn't concede as many goals as people think they did. I think there's a quote from Les Ferdinand, and he said it a few times, where I think he's a little bit angry about the fact that that side is labelled as a side that leaked goals, and in reality, I think they either conceded less or just a couple more than Man United in the season that they do the 12-point lead away. So it wasn't like they were a ship that just leaked all the time. You know, they were quite a decent outfit. Probably their downfall was maybe just not killing games off when they had the opportunity. But Albert, just so much fun to watch. You know, it shows you the pull as well of Manchester. Yeah, I'm having a shocker day of Newcastle United.
You are, because you said less as well instead of fewer.
Okay. Well, it shows you the pull of Newcastle United, because Albert says he turned down Juventus and other top sides to play for Newcastle United, which, you know, and maybe we're getting back to that kind of stage now with the modern day Newcastle United. We look at Marc Guehi, who's obviously attracting interest elsewhere as well, but he looks like he wants to join Newcastle United. He wants the move. We know there's interest, or there's been interest from other so-called big clubs, but he wants to come to Tyneside, and we are starting to get to that stage when Newcastle United is once more top side, attracting the very best players in the business, and it's a wonderful thing to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have nothing more to add. You've summed that up perfectly, I think, but just didn't quite make the cut for mine.
You're right. He did also go on loan to Fulham before he moved away permanently. So you are correct. Your trivia is unbelievable. You are spot on with that. Your second pick then?
Well, I think you've all guessed it by now if you're watching or listening. Fabian Schär. For the same reason, really. Stuck on a desert island, I want something fun to watch. And the fact is, he scored more goals than Philippe Albert. And the fact that he only cost 400,000 more in an era where, you know, Albert would have cost 10 times that nowadays. what can you say? He's just, what can you say? Honestly, I don't have the vocabulary to sum him up anymore. He's just an absolute luxury centre back, and there was times when we said he couldn't play in a flat back four. He's proved people wrong with that. He's scored all types of goals where he's a threat in the air from set pieces. He can blast one in from 30, 35 yards. He can run past the entire team like he did against Cardiff, I think it was, wasn't it? He can do it all. And goal line clearances and proper tackles as well. He's, if anything, he's still a bit underrated by the kind of wider footballing public. Obviously, Newcastle fans, we know what we've got and we absolutely adore him. But he probably maybe doesn't get the credit he deserves from the wider football community. And I just think if you're stranded on a desert island, watching a Fabian Schär montage would just be absolute bliss.
I just love the fact that he's really turned it around at Newcastle United. I know to begin with he was maybe a bit out of favour, but when he did play, he had so many mistakes in him. Like, he just switched off. And the way to try and remedy that mistake was just to bring a player down. I think it was
He could spit his dummy out, couldn't he? When it was all going bad, and he could proper throw a bit of a tantrum. But he's matured.
Yeah, under Eddie Howe, he's become a player who's eradicated, you would say, 99% of the mistakes. There are still a little few that crept in last season, but that's football. Players are not perfect. But the way he plays, like you say, he's matured, and I think he's more switched on than he's ever been, and that's down to him. His commitment and hard work and striving to improve, but also Eddie Howe, and maybe just putting an arm around him and the coaching staff, just showing him a bit of love, because before Eddie Howe, you knew there was a player there, but the mistakes were just too much. They were silly. He was hot-headed. Didn't really think. The passes going astray, bringing players down, switching off. Whereas now, I think you probably saw maybe 2 or 3 mistakes last season, which is fine. You take that. Like I say, that's football. But it's just so great to see that he's eradicated the majority of mistakes from his game.
Yeah, 100%. And look, watching compilations of Fabian Schär would just never get old. They would pass the time. You'd have an even bigger sunburn patch on your desert island, watching montages and clips of Fabian Schär over and over again. Just, what an incredible find by Rafa, and someone who was out the door under Steve Bruce, and was regalvanized, rejuvenated by Eddie Howe, and played in a flat back four, which as I said before, we never thought he could play in because he was too much of a luxury, I suppose. You needed 2 centre backs to kind of play with him. Yeah, it won't get old watching, even when he's. I mean, look, with the Guehi signing, there's every chance this upcoming season could be Schär's last in a Newcastle shirt. And what a time he's had, and we've thoroughly enjoyed watching him.
The way he passes the ball, for me, he's
filth,
absolutely fantastic.
Utter filth, in the best possible way.
The execution, an absolute dream for the likes of Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson. Absolutely superb. It's a joy, absolute joy to watch. And like you see, you mentioned the goals he scores. He can't half ping a ball, but also very good defender. Like, very, very good defender. Might be lacking a little bit of pace, but he's good in the air. He can get in with a slide challenge. I'd like to see him maybe be a little bit more vocal in terms of organisation. With that back four, I know we've got other leaders in the team that do that, and that's good. But I'd like to see. I always think the centre backs should be a bit more vocal, and they should really be in control of the whole entire situation. Whereas I think that's maybe what lets Schär down a little bit. He's not as vocal as I think he should be, but the rest of his game is just fantastic. Going forward, trying to keep a clean sheet, absolutely brilliant. And there's a real strong argument probably between him and Iosi Perez for the best ever Premier League Newcastle United bargain, and it's probably Fabian Schär in terms of ability, quality, what he's given to Newcastle United. If you're talking about maybe the whole rounded picture, you go at Iosi Perez because Newcastle managed to make a £28 million profit on him.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, if we'd have got Share much earlier, like the same age as we got Perez, then, like, say if Share's 24, my God, how much would he be worth now? A lot more than the 30 we got for Iosi Perez. So, we probably wouldn't need to be buying Marc Guehi, which would be a fabulous signing, by the way. But yeah,
new deal for Share just quickly because he's out of contract next summer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's every chance this could be his last. Whether he gets another year or not, we probably won't know until at least after January. It's a tricky one. He could get an extra year because Byrne and Lascelles are also out of contract as well. So we've got loads of players out of contract at the end of this upcoming season. So I don't know. It's down to how he plays, isn't it? He still will get minutes this season, of course he will. But we'll see. It's sensible by the club to just take it year by year. But yeah, look, I still think he's got plenty more to give, and I'd love to see him get an extra year if his form's up to it. And yeah,
what final question?
$3 million
on Share. Does your better half fancy him? Because my wife certainly does. She thinks he's the most gorgeous thing to come out of Newcastle United.
Yeah, it's a toss up between him and Kabay, isn't it? I don't know if my wife does. She's certainly never mentioned it. No, actually, no. My wife's Callum Wilson.
There we go.
No, my wife isn't Callum Wilson. My wife is Kelly Mulliner, but she's a Callum Wilson.
It's a squad of good-looking gentlemen, isn't it? It certainly is.
Yeah.
My next pick is Jonathan Woodgate. I know he was only here for.
Right. I knew you were going to pick Woodgate. Sorry, I've jumped on you straight away.
That's fine.
Because I knew as soon as you mentioned Sven Botman, and you've gone and picked Woodgate, Botman has already played at least twice as many games as Woodgate did.
But we're not just picking it on ability and games and stuff. It's that the kind of a emotional side, and obviously Woodgate signed by Sir Bobby in that team, and you're thinking what might have been. I think about that UEFA Cup semi-final, and if Woodgate had played the second leg because he kept Drogba so quiet in the first leg. I think about the game against Everton when Bernard got nailed, and Woodgate had a part in that game, and I think actually Woodgate maybe did he not play? But anyway, there's so many moments where you think, oh, what could have been if Woodgate had stayed fit, and B, him and Sir Bobby Robson stayed longer at the club as well. So it's that kind of emotional pull as well, just thinking about what could have been with him and Sir Bobby. But look, absolutely brilliant defender. One of the best I've seen at Newcastle. And again, it goes back to just his fitness record. Signed in 2003, brought from Leeds for £9 million. They were going through that financial trouble, weren't they? And then he left in the summer of 2004 to Real Madrid for £13.4 million in a very surprising move. So Bobby wasn't happy. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Woodgate's debut ended up with him scoring a goal, scoring an own goal, and getting sent off. I'm sure he hit all three markers on his debut for Real Madrid. So
I don't think he scored an actual goal. I might be wrong, but I thought he scored 2 own goals.
He scored 2 own goals. So it's even worse.
I'm not sure. I might have made that up. But yeah, he definitely got sent off and scored an own goal. But, like Woodgate says himself, well, what did you do on your Real Madrid debut?
Yeah, that's a very good point. But yeah, absolutely fantastic centre-back. Just a shame we didn't get to see him more. But for people who maybe weren't old enough to watch him or can't really remember too much of him, you watch that first leg in the UEFA Cup and the way he kept Drogba quiet. It was absolutely superb by him. And he had so many good games, or well, he didn't have enough games maybe, where he showed his true quality. And he's one of those players you throw in a bit like Dean Ashton, maybe. You could even throw Callum Wilson in.
Yeah, Dean Ashton.
What might have been had the injury gods been in his favour?
Yeah. But they weren't. unfortunately, because coming up, he was certainly on a par with John Terry. And then, obviously, Woodgate, horrendous injuries, and Terry has stayed fit, and look what he went on to achieve in the game. Yeah, it's a huge, huge shame. I just couldn't have him. But look, I agree with everything you said. Fantastic centre-back. But I just couldn't have him because he's played, 20-odd games for us?
28 Premier League.
28 games. Yeah, it's not enough. It's not enough, is it? It could have been a whole lot more. Should have been a whole lot more. It is a huge, huge shame. And like you said, what could have been. But if you're stuck on a desert island and watching a Jonathan Woodgate Newcastle montage, it's not going to be very long, is it?
That is true. Yeah, when you put it like that. Yeah, maybe I should have put in Sven Botman, but then look, he's been injured. I'm hoping he avoids the Woodgate curse.
He's had a full season though, hasn't he?
He has, but I mean, that's a big injury to overcome. Funny enough, though, and I don't know if you can have a worse ACL, but if you look at Tyrone Mings in the first picture that we saw when he came back from his, and look at Sven Botman. Now, I don't know the timescales between those pictures being taken and the injuries, but Tyrone Mings' leg was like proper stick thin, whereas Botman's was nowhere near that kind of size. Like
Rolls Royce engineering for you, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know if he's had a lesser ACL than Tyrone Mings, but
no.
Anyway.
Tyrone Mings is a Ford C-Max.
I mean, you're a man of cars. I have no idea what that means, but I'll take it as not a very good.
He's a people carrier. He's an everyman's car who's given up on life and has 3 kids in the back seat. Sven Botman is a Rolls Royce.
Okay, I get that. But yes, hopefully Botman back towards the end of the year, and he's fit and he's ready and he's fighting fit. And look, if Marc Guehi comes over the line, which we think he will do in the next couple of days, they've got some good competition across that back four, across the centre-back pair, and we're looking forward to that. Who is your next choice?
So I didn't want to keep it ultra modern, but then I think, well, obviously I've got Moncur for the historical value, and then I think of the centre-backs I watched for Newcastle growing up, and I thought, Albert, well then I picked Shah over Albert, and then going up through past that, we've obviously had some absolute stinkers. And then like the great Sir Bobby team, the centre-backs probably let us down more often than not. Your Brambles, Andy O'Brien, but not many people are going to be wistful about Andy O'Brien. Nikos Dabizas got the Sunderland goal, and got fluked by Bergkamp. Okay, Woodgate obviously entered my calculations. Colaccini, as I explained before, was okay. Then you go to the likes of your big guns, your Kashapas, your Rosenhals, your Boom Songs, your Kizanishvilis, your Fitzhalls, Stephen Taylor for some comedy value, like a player who came through under Sir Bobby Robson, all through up until Rafa Benitez. Incredible amount of time, but obviously injuries plagued with. And then I just got Jamal Lascelles was a big one for the same reason as I picked Matt Ritchie the other week. By the way, chuff for Matt Ritchie getting the movie Wanted to Portsmouth. Jamal Lascelles, the way he stood up and was counted against an absolute rotten dressing room and captained this club with distinction from Championship to Champions League. Did not look out of place against Paris Saint-Germain whatsoever.
Well, Jamal Lascelles is my third pick.
That pleases me because I haven't gone with him. So I am glad you've gone with Lascelles. But in the end, I've gone with Sven Botman.
I thought you might have done.
For the simple reason of he's the best centre-back I've seen play for us, and he just makes it look so easy. I remember when he made his St James's Park debut in the pre-season friendly against or one of the two. Was it the Friday night game or the Saturday afternoon game? I don't remember who it was against. The comments.
I'm going to say, was it Villarreal maybe?
Possibly, but like, no, it was it Atalanta?
Anyway, go on.
Or was it the one the next day? Yeah, the only thing I remember from that weekend, which is obviously not very much, was Sven Botman and how easy he made it look and effortless he made it look. And effortless was just such astounding quality. Went on to prove that our defence that season, we finished 4th, was incredible. And, you know, this is a guy who you want to build a defensive unit around for the next 10 years. Yes, he's had his injury. I hope he comes back at least on a par of what he was before. Obviously, angers me so much the way his injury was managed last season. It was an absolute disgrace. Florian Lejeune also entered my calculations as well. I used to love Lejeune. I thought he's incredibly underrated, and we're not another one whose injury was mismanaged by the Steve Bruce regime.
I think there's a lot of centre backs, and we'll probably do this category later on in the series, where if we picked what might have been, you know, you could pick Stephen Taylor, because if he'd been alongside a world-class defender to help him develop and help him, you know, grow, he'd be one of the best centre backs we've probably seen in the club. Following Lejeune, if he'd missed injury again, you know, so
Lejeune was outstanding. When my first ever appearance on Newcastle Fans TV way back when, it was the weekend after we beat Eddie Howe's Bournemouth 2-1. Yedlin and Clark. I said Florian Lejeune's our best player. Simple, because I thought he was. But yeah, Botman, just like, he could be smoking a cigar in the middle of the pitch and still does what he does. Absolutely wonderful left foot as well. Big presence in the air. Just, I think him and Guehi potentially is an incredible centre-back pairing for the next 6, 7, 8 years. Just wow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those two together for the years to come. The whole back four of Tino Livramento, Marc Guehi, Sven Botman and Lewis Hall is one that, you know, will be some force if they're all still together, if they're all fit.
3 out of 4 from the Chelsea academy.
Yeah, well, we don't want to talk about Chelsea because
that's how they get away with it.
Basket case of a football club, as you said a couple of weeks ago, and I totally agree with you. But yeah, Sven Botman, absolutely superb, and wish him a very speedy recovery back to the Newcastle United first team. As I said, my last pick is Jamal Lascelles. You mentioned they're standing up against after the Watford game when he said no one bloody cares, as he got sent off, didn't he? And he had a little barney in the dressing room, and then he got given the captaincy. And you know, he's been a long-serving captain of this club, and he is a man who has the best interests of this club at heart. He's a man who also bleeds black and white. He absolutely loves it up here, you know. And I'm so happy that he got last season to prove how good of a defender he is.
Yeah.
Because when Botman was injured, everybody went, "Oh no, it's Lascelles coming in," and he shut those critics up. And it's down to him, having a really good character, because before that he didn't really play much football at all, and that's difficult, going from club captain, playing week in week out, to going to, you know, 3rd, 4th choice at best. But he didn't spit his dummy out the pram. He just got his head down and worked really, really hard. He trained every single day like he was going to be the first name on the team sheet. And that is tremendous character, because not a lot of captains would have that about him, you know, and that proves his love for this club. And then to step up in the way he did, because he went up not just one level, but several levels when it came to performance. And it's down to Eddie Howe and his training staff for working with him. But again, down to Lascelles' hard work. And he's become a better player by not playing. And he's become a better player because of Eddie Howe as well. And you mentioned that game against PSG. I mean, he was absolutely superb. But I think he had a run of about 7 or 8 man of the match performances out of about 10 or 12 games. He was just absolutely superb, dominating in the air, good with a slide tackle, bit of pace about him. I know he's not the quickest, but he had it about him. And the leadership, you cannot question his leadership ability. He's absolutely superb. I'm so happy he got an extension. Good he got injured when he did. Probably his last season, you would think, at Newcastle United.
I hope not.
Well, again, it's down to him. If he's not pushing to move, then maybe not. But if he wants a couple more seasons at the highest level, because he could still do it at a mid-table Premier League side without question, because he's still got a lot to offer. But look, if he did get another extension, he's settled up here. He's happy up here with his family, and he would definitely take it. If he didn't want to go out searching for first team football, I wouldn't be against it, because he's one of those leaders in the dressing room, and he's proven when called upon, he can give his very, very best. And the criticism towards him, even last season, even after the performances he put in, so uncalled for a man who's given his all. It really annoyed me when I saw some of the stick. I'm more for criticizing performances when it's fair and when it's just. But every player has a mistake in him. Every player.
They're not robots, they're human.
Exactly. Every player. And it was just the difference when Fabian Schär made a mistake to Jamal Lascelles making a mistake was just something else. And this is a man who's been here 10 years now. 10 years now. And he's been absolutely tremendous. I mean, I can't say much more. I absolutely love Jamal Lascelles. I've said it. Love him.
I'm really pleased you've gone with Lascelles, because he was very, very close for mine. Guys like him, Matt Ritchie, Isaac Hayden saved Newcastle as a Premier League team. Got us up at the first time of asking in a very, very difficult Championship season. Kept us up as well, with such a lack of investment in that team, and after that, some very poor coaching. So important, and these guys shouldn't be forgotten in our history, because we wouldn't have been able to get to where we are now without them laying the foundations for that and keeping us afloat in the Premier League. I've always been a Lascelles fan, a staunch defender of Jamal Lascelles. I've always been a big advocate and supporter of his. What a man. Great character. When, was him and Richie were the only leaders in that dressing room for a long, long, long time. I'd put Shelby in that category as well, along with Richie, Lascelles, and Hayden. Just fantastic attitude, fantastic man. Can still do it. I mean, let's not forget that first season back in the Premier League, we were clamouring for him to be selected for England. Him and Lejeune in Rafa's 4-2-3-1 that first season back looked good, looked really good. I'm happy you've picked Lascelles.
I'm glad. Well, this has been another episode of Just Take 3. This week it's been centre backs. I have gone for Philip Albert, Jonathan Woodgate, and Jamal Lascelles. Sam has gone for
Bob Moncur, Sven Botman, and Fabian Schär. Two of our current centre backs.
Just quickly, because I know you've got to get off to the cinema with the kids. If we're picking two in your dream Newcastle United side, who are you going to go for? On the count of three, we'll say them out loud, right? And let's see if we agree. Okay?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Moncur and Botman.
Botman and Guehi.
And he's ruined it. That's going to be the jinx now. I'm going to put this out, and then the deal collapses, and everyone's going to come for you.
I am. Do you know what? It's one of them deals that it's so big. I am quite not skeptical, but I'm wary that until I see him in a Newcastle shirt with a cool kind of presentation video package thing, then I'm struggling to believe this one. But I'm excited by it. But I still with the under the kind of guise of there best be some money left over for a right winger.
Yeah, they're going to need to sell to buy, I think. Answer the question quickly, though. Answer the question. Come on.
Moncur and Botman.
There we go. Oh, we agree. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, there we go, ladies and gents. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Leave us a rating and review on the podcast channel. Thank you, as always. Head over to chroniclelive.co.uk. And for myself and Sam, we'll see you guys next week.